Hello, everyone. My name is Sierra Johnson, and today I will be presenting my presentation in reference to exploring rehabilitation services provided during imprisonment and discussing whether if I believe that they are beneficial towards reducing recidivism. The type of research method that was utilized to conduct the research for this assignment would be considered the O or observational research method. So basically, what I did was I reviewed a few rehabilitation services that are offered throughout correctional institutions in both the states of Michigan and Ohio. And then I utilized that review to compare the population of the total amount of inmates that were in prison in both states in the year of 2017 versus the amount of inmates that committed recidivism in the year of 2020. My basis of comparing those two populations for those 2 years were based upon research that had already been conducted by both states' rehabilitation services. They basically compared the amount, or the total amount rather, of inmates who were imprisoned in 2017 and utilized the results of recidivism based upon whether if those inmates reoffended within a 3-year period. Before I introduce my findings, I think that it's important that we define exactly what rehabilitation is in general, especially in reference to the factor of recidivism. So there's many different ways that one may be able to define what rehabilitation is. It's really based upon what the rehabilitation services are for. But for this topic itself, the definition of rehabilitation would be the aim of reducing the likelihood of recidivism and the ultimate goal of an intervention in order for it to qualify as rehabilitative. And that was quoted from Douglas and Forsberg in 2020. The three different types of rehabilitation services that I did evaluate would include drug and substance abuse rehabilitation services, mental and emotional rehabilitation services, and vocational based rehabilitation services. The first identifying finding that I would like to discuss would be the comparison of how many individuals were imprisoned in both Michigan and Ohio during 2017. In Michigan, there were roughly around 41,122 inmates imprisoned, and here in Ohio, there were roughly around 50,362 inmates imprisoned. Obviously, the population in Ohio was a lot larger of inmates in 2017. Therefore, my next findings will correlate or reflect a larger amount of individuals that committed recidivism in Ohio versus the amount of individuals that committed recidivism in Michigan in 2020. The next identifying finding that I would like to discuss would be the amount of individuals who committed recidivism as of 2020 in both Michigan and Ohio. I'll start with Michigan first. According to the Michigan Department of Corrections in 2020, the recidivism rate of inmates who were previously incarcerated in 2017 was at 22.7%. That's roughly around 9,335 inmates who were previously imprisoned in 2017 that re entered the criminal justice system in 2020. In Ohio, the recidivism rate, according to the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, was at 20.8%. That's roughly around 10,475 inmates who returned to prison in 2020 who were previously imprisoned in 2017. With that being said, if we're going based upon the total population amount of inmates who were imprisoned in 2017 in both states versus the recidivism rates that were reported in both states for 2020, one could say that rehabilitation services do aid towards the reduction and prevention of recidivism. However, a difficulty that I did locate while conducting my research is that there's not much data that is available in reference to whether if all inmates who were a part of the population in both states in 2017 engaged in rehabilitation services, to state whether or not if those services were effective for those individuals who did not return to prison in 2020. I think that it would be a lot more helpful if both states and just departments of corrections worldwide would provide more detail in reference to which inmates may participate in rehabilitation services, the specific services that they're participating in, because it'll give a lot more input and allow a lot more detail for researchers such as myself to compose graphical and literature review in reference to whether or not if I believe that those services that are being offered to individuals are a lot more effective. So hopefully in the future, those specific data rates will be available because it'll give a definite answer as to whether or not if rehabilitation services do aid towards the reduction of recidivism. Thank you for listening to my presentation. All of the references that I utilize will be listed on the next slide. I hope you all have a good one.